Mobile Task Forces. Mobile Task Forces, MTFs, are elite units comprised of personnel drawn from across the Foundation and are mobilized to deal with specific threats or situations that sometimes exceed the operational capacity or expertise of regular field personnel and, as their name suggests, may be relocated between facilities or locations as they are needed. Mobile Task Force personnel represent the best of the Foundation. Mobile task forces vary greatly in size, composition, and purpose. A battalion-strength combat-oriented task force trained to deal with highly aggressive anomalous entities may consist of hundreds of troops plus support personnel, vehicles, and equipment and can be deployed in whole or in part to deal with threats across the globe. However, a mobile task force can also be a small, specialized intelligence gathering or investigative task force that may have fewer than a dozen personnel if that is deemed sufficient to accomplish their goals. While in the field, task force members often pose as emergency responders, local or federal law enforcement, or military personnel appropriate to the region in which they are operating. Mobile task force commanders can also request the assistance of local field units or personnel stationed at nearby Foundation facilities in order to accomplish their missions. Organization. Each unit is fundamentally structured in a way that best suits their intended purpose. While combat-oriented task forces may closely follow military hierarchy and organization, smaller units may have an informal or otherwise esoteric chain of command. As such, the responsibilities of the Mobile Task Force Commander, MTFC, for each particular task force can vary greatly. The commander for a large task force might focus on maintaining multiple teams and deploying them as necessary to each assigned operation, whereas the commander of a small team might deploy with their team and direct the operation from on location. Similarly, the cohesion of each unit will vary as well. Some mobile task forces consist of personnel who have trained and worked for many years or even decades together, whereas the personnel of a mobile task force formed on a moment's notice to deal with a specific incident may know little more than each other's names and fields of expertise. Creation. Mobile task forces are typically commissioned as deemed necessary by the Foundation's Director of Task Forces, often with the direct approval of one or more O5 Council members. A significant number of mobile task forces are created to deal with specific anomalies exhibiting traits that standard containment or response teams are unable to effectively counteract, though many were also created to preempt an emerging or theoretical threat. Deactivation. Mobile task forces created for the purpose of containing a particular anomaly are typically deactivated at the end of the recovery operation or when ongoing containment is deemed no longer necessary. Occasionally, such task forces remain operational if the expertise and experiences learned are considered useful for future incidents, but otherwise the task force will likely be disbanded and its personnel returned to their prior posts. Very rarely, a mobile task force will also be disbanded if it suffers sufficient casualties to render it incapable of operation. In these cases, if the prior capability of that particular task force is deemed necessary, a new task force may be commissioned to replace it. Table of Contents. MTF Alpha-1, Red Right Hand. MTF Alpha-4, Pony Express. MTF Alpha-9, Last Hope. MTF Beta-1, Cauterizers. MTF Beta-2 Bayou Boys. MTF Beta-4, Castaways. MTF Beta-7, Maz Hatters. MTF Beta-777, Hecate Spear. MTF Gamma-4, Blondebeard's Crew. MTF Gamma-4, Green Stags. MTF Gamma-5, Red Herrings. MTF Gamma-6, Deep Feeders. MTF Gamma-13, Asimov's Lawbringers. MTF Delta-5, Front Runners. MTF Epsilon-6, Village Idiots. MTF Epsilon-7, Forget-Me-Nots. MTF Epsilon-9, Fire Eaters. MTF Epsilon-11, Nine-Tailed Fox. MTF Epsilon-13, Manifest Destiny. MTF Zeta-9, Mole Rats. MTF Eta-4, Begone Thoth. MTF Eta-5, Georgia Bombers. MTF Eta-10, See No Evil. MTF Eta-11, Savage Beasts. MTF Eta-77, Spheres Within Spheres. MTF Theta-4, Gardeners. MTF Theta-5, The Bigger Boat. MTF Theta-90, Angle Grinders. MTF Iota-10, Dam Feds. MTF Kappa-10, Skynet. MTF Kappa-43, The Mediators. MTF Lambda-4, Birdwatchers. MTF Lambda-5, White Rabbits. MTF Lambda-12, Pest Control. MTF Lambda-14, One-Star Reviewers. MTF Mu-3, Highest Bidders. MTF Mu-4, Debuggers. MTF Mu-13, Ghostbusters. MTF Nu-7, Hammer Down. MTF 11-8, Last to Fall. MTF 11-13, Sequere Nos. MTF Omicron Rho, The Dream Team. MTF Pi-1 City Slickers. MTF Rho-1, The Professors. MTF Rho-9, Technical Support. MTF Rho-19, Cythereans. MTF Sigma-3, Bibliographers. MTF Sigma-9, Valkyries. MTF Sigma-10, The Sloth's Arm. MTF Sigma-66, 16 tons. MTF Tau-5, Samsara. MTF Tau-9, Bookworms. MTF Tau-51 Urban Brawl. MTF Epsilon-4, Sugar Pill. MTF Epsilon-11, Avalon's Wake. MTF Epsilon-20, Hogtown Garrison. MTF Epsilon-23 Art Critics. MTF Phi-2, Clever Girls. MTF Chi-7, Plague Tamers. MTF Chi-9, Page Turners. MTF C7, Home Improvement. MTF C8, The Silencers. MTF C9, Abyss Gazers. MTF C13, Witch Hunters. MTF Omega 0, Aurora. MTF Omega 1, Law's Left Hand. MTF Omega 7, Pandora's Box. MTF Omega 12, Achilles' Heels. MTF Omega 45, Street Samurai. MTF Sigma-9, evolved from naturally occurring gears, levers and pulleys. Additional MTFs. MTF Gamma-44, Meat Lockers. MTF Delta-3, Solomon's Hand. MTF Delta-4, Minuteman. MTF Delta-14, Winter Wonderland. MTF Delta-45, Rolling Thunder. MTF Eta-13, Gulliver's Tourists. MTF Kappa-14, Sideshow Bob. MTF Nu-3, Limnophobia. MTF 11-5, Newton's Bullies. MTF Omicron 67, Zereth Responders. MTF Pi-43, Garbage In, Garbage Out. MTF Rho-43, Home Invaders. MTF Sigma-5, Drop Table Task Forces. MTF Phi-L, Provident Trawlers. MTF Omega-9, The Scrubs. MTF Omega-20, Thought Police. MTF Titan-1, Off the Books. Distributed Task Forces. DTF Sigma-6, Puddle Jumpers. Special Task Forces. STF Rho-7, Greeting Party. Mobile Task Forces List. MTF Alpha-1, Red Right Hand. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Alpha-1 is a task force that reports directly to the O5 Council and is used in situations that require the strictest operational security. The task force consists of the Foundation's best and most loyal operatives, and serves as the O5 Council's Special Operations Unit. Further information regarding MTF Alpha-1 is classified Level 5, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-001, Dead Men. SCP-001, Mamjal and Cora. SCP-2271, SCP-3434, SCP-3499, SCP-3741, SCP-3791, SCP-4470, SCP-5008, SCP-5105, SCP-5920, SCP-7001, SCP-7760. Action Reports. The High Court with the Magic Army. Null Space. Ledger Domain. Chaos Insurgency Hub. Gate of Janus. MTF Alpha-4. Pony Express. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Alpha-4 consists primarily of personnel trained to act as undercover employees and specialize in tracking, intercepting, and securing anomalous objects sent through postal and package delivery services worldwide. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-111, SCP-130, SCP-360, SCP-2177, SCP-2577, SCP-2752, SCP-3060, SCP-3512, SCP-3601, SCP-4209, SCP-5430, MTF Alpha-9, Last Hope. Task Force Mission. The Reborn Omega-7. A mobile task force explicitly intended to train and utilize humanoid SCP objects in the field. Utilizing objects. SCP-073, SCP-105, SCP-1360, SCP-1985, SCP-2273, SCP-2913, SCP-2987, SCP-4051, SCP-4494, SCP-4818, SCP-5031. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5025. Action Reports. Resurrection Hub. The Seed of an Idea. Deals with the Devil. The Wolves at the Door. In Harm's Way. Operation Camp Granada. No Joke. Getting into Trouble. Calm. The Siege of Site-19. Resurrection. New Faces. Series. Resurrection. His Will Be Done. Series. Devil's Advocate. Series. MTF Beta-1. Cauterizers. Task Force Mission. Highly classified task force specializing in dealing with suspected cases of enemy infiltration within Foundation personnel and possible information leaks to other groups of interest. Assisting in containment of objects. Meta-Ike Proposal. The Solution. SCP-2002. Action Reports. The Man Who Stood Alone Hub. After Action Report. Operation Thermopylae. Personnel Expendable. Part 1. Personnel Expendable. Part 2. I Thought You Died Alone. Fresh Fish. MTF Beta-2 Bayou Boys. Task Force Mission. Region-specific task force based in Louisiana. Trained to act in swamp wetland environments. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4421. SCP-4476. SCP-5038. SCP-5138. SCP-6500. MTF Beta-4. Castaways. Task Force Mission. MTF Beta-4 is a task force created with the sole purpose of assisting and monitoring GOI-466. Wilson's Wildlife Solutions in their interactions with local fauna-based anomalies. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3465. SCP-3466. SCP-3467. SCP-3577. SCP-3676. SCP-3879. MTF Beta-7, Maz Hatters. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Beta-7 specializes in the acquisition and containment of anomalies exhibiting extreme biological, chemical, or radiological hazards, as well as the rapid containment and cleanup of areas affected by such anomalies. This includes the planning and deployment of contingencies for wide area or pandemic spread of anomalous disease agents or other contagious phenomena. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-400, SCP-550, SCP-1280, SCP-1393, SCP-2133, SCP-2376, SCP-2438, SCP-2810, SCP-3016, SCP-4771, SCP-5397, SCP-6118. Action Reports. Operation Camp Granada. A World's Legacy. Lockdown Procedures. MTF Beta-777. Hecate Spear. Task Force Mission. Specializes in thaumaturgical ritual analysis and countermeasures, including thaumaturgical combat. Based out of Site-91. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3743, SCP-4612, SCP-4712, SCP-5079, SCP-5512, SCP-5626, SCP-5923, SCP-5957, SCP-6094, SCP-6364, SCP-7602. Action Reports. Project Hecate and Shares under Site-93. Director Varga. Rabban Hormizd Monastery, 3rd of May, 1992. Moscow, Russia, the 11th of June, 1993. Extranormal Event Number 8832, the 3rd of July, 1993. Site-91, late 2021. MTF Gamma-4, Blondebeard's crew. Task Force Mission. A 5-man task force specialized in performing tasks in low to zero gravity and vacuum environments. Based out of Lunar Area 32. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2493, SCP-2651, SCP-3609, SCP-4293, SCP-6981, MTF Gamma-4, Green Stags. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Gamma-4 specializes in operations involving anomalies in forested or otherwise nature-based environments. Skilled in ecology, recovery, and tracking targets. Based out of Site-44, and operating on behalf of the Cryptozoology Division. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-6448, SCP-6877, SCP-6884, SCP-7042, SCP-7088, SCP-7187, SCP-7975, MTF Gamma-5, Red Herrings. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Gamma-5 specializes in preventing the dissemination of knowledge of anomalous events or phenomena in cases where initial suppression efforts have proven ineffective or insufficient, or in cases where such knowledge has already reached critical levels of public exposure. This includes the research and deployment of experimental amnestics as well as memory fabrication procedures. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1086, SCP-1110, SCP-1460, SCP-1532, SCP-1548, SCP-1570, SCP-1618, SCP-1670, SCP-2105, SCP-2342, SCP-2631, SCP-3339, SCP-3666, SCP-4039, SCP-4160, SCP-5060, SCP-5479, SCP-5916. Action Reports. Project Heimdall. Prologue. Bigger Than Jesus. Himindjog. Lockdown Procedures. MTF Gamma-6. Deep Feeders. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Gamma-6 specializes in the investigation and tracking of deep-sea or oceanic anomalies, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-169, SCP-879, SCP-1264, SCP-1409, SCP-2120, SCP-2770, SCP-2956, SCP-3069, SCP-5533, SCP-6055. Action Reports. Parting. Interlude. Drift. MTF Gamma-13. Asimov's Lawbringers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Gamma-13 specializes in the investigation, tracking, and apprehension of anomalous objects, persons, and entities associated with GOI 1115 Anderson Robotics. This includes identification of Anderson customers, location of Anderson products and conduction of raids on Anderson offices, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2306, SCP-2806, SCP-2906, SCP-3560, SCP-6660, SCP-750 Co. Action Reports. Anderson Robotics Hub. The Elusive Anderson. Or Stringers. Decisions We Make. The Blackbird and the Falcon. Assault on Site 64. All Hallows. MTF Delta-5. Front Runners. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Delta-5 is comprised of multiple autonomous deep cover cells specializing in the identification and preemptive acquisition of anomalous objects and entities of interest to other groups of interest, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-185, SCP-472, SCP-1139, SCP-5071, SCP-7760. Action Reports. Hephaestus. Peanuts. MTF Epsilon-6. Village Idiots. Task Force Mission. Specializes in the investigation, containment, and subsequent cleanup of anomalies in rural and suburban environments, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2447. SCP-2480, SCP-2561, SCP-2815, SCP-3322, SCP-3449, SCP-3845, Undefined, SCP-4709, SCP-4775, SCP-5000, SCP-5536, SCP-5700, SCP-5820, SCP-5910, SCP-6186, SCP-6619, SCP-6717, SCP-7231, MTF Epsilon-7, Forget-Me-Nots. Task Force Mission. Undercover disruption of the research and development of nestic drugs, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2111, SCP-2828, SCP-2358, SCP-2438, SCP-4144, MTF Epsilon-9, Fire Eaters. Task Force Mission. Epsilon-9 specializes in the use of incendiary weaponry and operations in high-temperature environments, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-165, SCP-262, SCP-968, SCP-2340, SCP-3205, SCP-4111, MTF Epsilon-11, Nine-Tailed Fox. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Epsilon-11 handles internal security for the SCP Foundation, under oversight by MTF Alpha-1. They are a special ops force deployed to Foundation sites when standard protocols fail and multiple breaches are imminent. As such, most of their operations are classified. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2139, SCP-2479, SCP-3030, SCP-4171, SCP-4511, SCP-5018, SCP-5254. Action Reports. Lockdown Procedures. MTF Epsilon-13, Manifest Destiny. Task Force Mission. Epsilon-13 is a task force trained in the exploration of expansive unknown terrain. Based out of Site-81. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2935, SCP-4971, SCP-7381. Action Reports. In Shadow. MTF Zeta-9, Mole Rats. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Zeta-9 specializes in the investigation, exploration, and containment of underground or enclosed areas exhibiting anomalous phenomena, particularly those with inconsistent topography or unstable spacetime. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-001, Amoni Ram. SCP-184, SCP-455, SCP-835, SCP-1162, SCP-1444, SCP-1730, SCP-2518, SCP-2591, SCP-2955, SCP-3066, SCP-3512, SCP-3667, SCP-5015, SCP-5100, SCP-5392, SCP-5653, SCP-5992, SCP-6991. Action Reports. Old Roots. Animalia. The Lockdown. Himinjog. Lessons for Old Dogs. The Last Good Man in the Foundation. MTF Eta-4. Begone Thoth. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Eta-4 is a unit of intelligent SCP-3095 affected seabirds. Eta-4 specializes in information collection and analysis, complementary field research and support, and in extreme cases, airborne combat. The task force was ultimately charged with protecting humanity after the B-class migration end of consciousness scenario, assisting in containment of objects. EE-3570, SCP-4688, SCP-5106. Action Reports. Team Bird Hub. Join the Flock. SPC-507. The Sacred Jehuti. Avian Anthology I. Avian Anthology 2. MTF Eta-5. Georgia Bombers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Eta-5 is a rapid response unit specializing in the tracking, capturing, and containment of large-scale aggressors, entities over 30 meters in height. deploys from, and detains LSAs within dimensional site 172, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2764, SCP-3534, SCP-4315, SCP-5391, SCP-5514. Action Reports. Anastasis Hub. LTE 2712 Bosch. Lockdown Procedures. A farewell to arms. MTF Eta-10. See no evil. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Eta-10 specializes in the investigation, acquisition, and initial containment of objects or entities exhibiting visual cognitohazards, visual mimetic agents, or otherwise require indirect or alternative observation in order to safely handle, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-020, SCP-125, SCP-571, SCP-904, SCP-1561, SCP-2136, SCP-2140, SCP-2155, SCP-2828, SCP-3393, SCP-3519, SCP-3597, SCP-4149, SCP-4550, SCP-4600, SCP-4879, SCP-5052, SCP-6178, SCP-6896. Action Reports. SCP-1933-X. Lockdown Procedures. SCP-V1L3J. MTF Eta-11. Savage Beasts. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Eta-11 specializes in the investigation, acquisition, and containment of auditory and musical anomalies, including any auditory cognitohazards or sound-based anomalous threats, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1687, SCP-1844, SCP-2402, SCP-2828, SCP-3447, SCP-3519, SCP-4150, SCP-4614. Action Reports. A Convincing Liar. An Impenitent Thief. Project Proposal 2014-2112. Dreams of Failure. Pattern Breaker. The Musical Suspects. Counterpoint. Lockdown Procedures. MTF Eta-77. Spheres Within Spheres. Task Force Mission. The Department of Tactical Theology's Personalized Operational Unit, consisting of 15 specialized members. All personnel in the task force have expertise in dealing with aggressive or threatening religion-related anomalies, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4531, SCP-5327, SCP-5993, SCP-6542, SCP-6731, SCP-6777, SCP-6896, SCP-7742, MTF Theta-4, Gardeners. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Theta-4 specializes in the acquisition and containment of plant or plant-like anomalous objects and entities, especially fieldwork involving widespread infestations of such anomalies, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-628, SCP-1147, SCP-1255, SCP-1262, SCP-1717, SCP-2108, SCP-3215, SCP-3421, SCP-6880, SCP-6896, MTF Theta-5, the Bigger Boat. Task Force Mission. Specializes in anomalies involving or threatening marine vehicles. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1373, SCP-1409, SCP-1568, SCP-2136, SCP-2162, SCP-3057, SCP-3241, SCP-4373, SCP-7200, MTF Theta-90, Angle Grinders. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Theta-90, the Angle Grinders, specialize in operating in locations of anomalous topology geometry and in securing anomalies connected with these kinds of spacetime distortions. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1707, SCP-2601, SCP-3307, SCP-4037, SCP-4096, SCP-4104. Action Reports. Tuesday, 11 a.m. Conference Room 3. Wednesday, 3 p.m. The Office of Paul DiMaxio. Monday, 6 a.m. Escheville Facility 2. Friday, 2200. Paul DiMaxio's personal quarters. Running out. Mobile Task Force Induction Remarks. 4 years later. Turning Points. The character assassination of Site-666 by the cowards MTF Theta-90. MTF Iota-10. Damn Feds. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Iota-10 maintains undercover operatives in various international, federal, and provincial law enforcement agencies and specializes in facilitating the transfer of anomalous evidence and objects into Foundation control as well as the transfer of jurisdiction over anomalous event locations from local law enforcement to Foundation containment and response teams. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-210, SCP-437, SCP-1243, SCP-1359, SCP-2036, SCP-2578, SCP-2890, SCP-2942, SCP-3117, SCP-3155, SCP-3458, SCP-3183, SCP-4581, SCP-5177, SCP-5617, SCP-7760. Action Reports. Project Heimdall. Prologue. SCP-1949-X. Operation Galvanic Ukulele. After Action Report. Operation Thermopylae. MTF Kappa-10. Skynet. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Kappa-10 is a temporary designation until such time it is either officially dissolved or sanctioned. It is strictly tasked in investigating and engaging cyber anomalies using a combination of virtual agents X and Foundation researchers to track, neutralize, and/or contain such intangible threats. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2522, SCP-2806, SCP-2987, SCP-3090, SCP-3323, SCP-3959, SCP-4950, SCP-5018, SCP-5860. Action Reports. Hello World. Part 1. Part 2. Part 3. Part 4. Rogue AI. Basic Observations. Himinjog. MTF Kappa-43. The Mediators. Task Force Mission. Specialize in the investigation, tracking, and apprehension of anomalous objects and media associated with GOI 5889, Begone the need technical media, and amnestization of any witnesses, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5358, SCP-5379, SCP-5571, SCP-5681, SCP-5698, SCP-5974, SCP-6121, SCP-6123, SCP-6677, MTF Lambda-4, Birdwatchers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Lambda-4 specializes in the identification, tracking, and containment of airborne biological anomalies, especially anomalous avian organisms, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-514, SCP-1476, SCP-1505, SCP-1560, SCP-2760, SCP-2967, SCP-3497, SCP-5447, MTF Lambda-5, White Rabbits. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Lambda-5 specializes in traversing unstable, surreal, and controlled reality, and containing potentially dangerous persons and artifacts capable of manipulating space and time, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2446, SCP-3087, SCP-4507, SCP-5179. Action Reports. SCP-2446-B4 Interview. Lambda Killer. 2525 North Waterworks Saint. Rabbit here, rabbit there. Lockdown Procedures. MTF Lambda-12. Pest Control. Task Force Mission. Specializes in tracking, containing, and exterminating anomalous vermin. Often used as a first response team when tracking anomalous organisms. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2350. SCP-2810. SCP-3470. SCP-3640. SCP-4310. SCP-4749. SCP-6092. Action Reports. Near the Mountains. MTF Lambda-14. 1-star Reviewers. Task Force Mission. A task force that specializes in dealing with retail-oriented locations and anomalies, be they singular restaurants or entire shopping districts displaying anomalies. Since their initial investigation of the Ambrose restaurant, MTF Lambda-14 has been assigned to work to combat this group. For more information on this task force, see the Ambrose Restaurant's dossier. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2001-X. SCP-4348. SCP-4554. SCP-5516. SCP-5559-D. SCP-6941. SCP-7760. Action Reports. Dining Out. The Ambrose Fair. Ambrose Temecula. MTF Mu-3. Highest Bidders. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Mu-3 is dedicated to monitoring GOI Marshall, Carter and Dark Limited. Through the combined efforts of undercover agents and covert ops specialists, their objective is identifying objects of interest in possession of Marshall, Carter and Dark, isolating opportunities to recover these objects, and ultimately achieving their containment. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2423, SCP-2463, SCP-2818, SCP-5169, SCP-6140. Action Reports. Application to form MTF Mu-3. Little Draft Horses. Broker Bailer Grifter Thief. Cover letter for After Action Report. Operation Free Market. Creative Differences. MTF Mu-4. Debuggers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Mu-4 specializes in the identification, tracking, retrieval, and containment of electronic devices and transmissions, especially anomalous computers and network-related anomalies. This includes the investigation of Internet sites suspected of anomalous capabilities or involved in anomalous events. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-155. SCP-892. SCP-896. SCP-1290. SCP-1866. SCP-2160. SCP-2223. SCP-2698. SCP-2738. SCP-2876. SCP-2890. SCP-3030. SCP-3045. SCP-3089. SCP-3101. SCP-3334. SCP-3858. Action Reports. Come Back Kid. T-. MTF Mu-13. Ghostbusters. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Mu-13 specializes in the tracking, analysis, and containment of incorporeal or intangible manifestations and entities, particularly those believed to be sentient, sapient, or otherwise intelligent and adaptive. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-128. SCP-460. SCP-1036. SCP-1750. SCP-2176. SCP-2227. SCP-3371. SCP-4041. SCP-4973. SCP-5230. SCP-5685. SCP-5790. SCP-5828. SCP-6274. SCP-6403. SCP-6501. Action Reports. Are we there yet? Tasers and thermite. Lockdown procedures. Spilled milk. Intelligence Covenant Dossier. Region -3824 Far 1 Wheelka Altana. Additional resources. MTF Nu-7. Hammer Down. Task Force Mission. Armed Mobile Task Force Nu-7 is a battalion-strength force consisting of 3 company-sized elements of Special Operations Infantry Forces, a light armored vehicle company, tank platoon, helicopter squadron, chemical biological, radiological nuclear, CBRN, platoon, combat engineer platoon, nuclear weapon specialist, NWS, squad, plus additional combat specialist and support personnel. MTF Nu-7 is based primarily out of Armed Biocontainment Area 14 and is tasked with responding to incidents involving loss of communication with major Foundation facilities under circumstances wherein a site-wide breach, enemy compromise, or other similarly catastrophic event is suspected. Assisting in containment of objects. Roundhouse's Gold Proposal, Amoni Ram. Roundhouse's Jade Proposal, MAMJUL and Cora. Null Sum Proposal, The Problem. D. Ulysses Foyle's Proposal. SCP-PL-259. SCP-359. SCP-823. SCP-939. SCP-1105. SCP-1943. SCP-2128. SCP-2546. SCP-2621. SCP-2660, SCP-2687, SCP-2706, SCP-2803, SCP-3095, SCP-3221, SCP-3758, SCP-4227, SCP-4248, SCP-4290, SCP-4297, SCP-4362, SCP-4397, SCP-4401, SCP-4403, SCP-4531, SCP-4661, SCP-4675, SCP-4764, SCP-5006, SCP-5018, SCP-5099, SCP-5222, SCP-5392, SCP-5778, SCP-5934, SCP-5989, SCP-6002, SCP-6038, SCP-6070, SCP-6083, SCP-6090, SCP-6111, SCP-6129, SCP-6140, SCP-6386, SCP-6396, SCP-6422, SCP-6448, SCP-6503, SCP-6644, SCP-6699, SCP-6715, SCP-6721, SCP-6776, SCP-6842, SCP-6883, SCP-6907, SCP-6981, SCP-6995, SCP-7022, SCP-7102, SCP-7459, SCP-7503, SCP-7633, SCP-7702, SCP-7877. Action Reports. SCP-076-J, SCP-729-J, SCP-6140-J. Lockdown Procedures. Aftermath. Operation Camp Granada. Drooling Path Hub. The Drooling Path Part 2. The Drooling Path Part 4. The Drooling Path Part 5. Emergency alteration of Operation Lamigath. Operation Galahad. Mobile Task Force Basic School. Induction Remarks. Foundation Gright Sheet. Radical Acceptance. The Musical Suspects. Site 7. Airgap. Oops. Recovered document SCP-2173-004. Sphere Incursion Log. North Star. Beyond the Depths. Asset. Not Agent. Beyond the Depths. Knife Edge. The Drooling Path. Epilogue. 7 levels of Site 17. Staring down the barrel of a sun. SCP-1444 Exploration Log. PTF Thorn 2. Application to form MTF Rho-87. The Siege of Site 19. Cack Hard. The Good Work. Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. A play in 2 acts. The Bodhi Commission. Part 1. Freaks. Friends and Fiends. Himinjug. Dead Dogs. Magic Mounties. Moose on the Loose. The Star and the Smith. Assured Loss of Life. The Shape of a Gun. MTF 11-8. Last to Fall. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force 11-8 is a battalion-strength task force dedicated to the acquisition and or termination of Sarkic entities and artifacts. Created as a response to the growing Sarkic threat, 11-8's operational scope encompasses all 6 major continents, with naval support provided by the Foundation as needed, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-238, SCP-2834, SCP-3862, SCP-3911, SCP-4273, SCP-5038, SCP-5407, SCP-6013. Action Reports. Kelapad Noga. In Memoria. Adatum. MTF 1113. Sequere Nos. Task Force Mission. Platoon Strength Rapid Response Unit. Tasked with responding quickly to dangerous and or anomalous situations where the threat has not yet been identified but military-grade forces deemed likely, including but not limited to large-scale containment and security breaches. Assisting in containment of objects. Null Sum Proposal. The Problem. SCP-1983. Action Reports. Briefing on Slate Thunder. Chaos Insurgency Orientation. Conspiracy. Incident TA-05003. 1. MTF Omicron Rho. The Dream Team. Task Force Mission. The Foundation has discovered the method of becoming Oneroi, and now with this power are more capable of containing them. For decades they teach their agents the technique that allows one consciousness to join another's. The few mentally hardened individuals that succeed are organized into a task force. The first of these was Mobile Task Force Omicron Rho, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1394, SCP-2144, SCP-2235, SCP-2603, SCP-2934, SCP-2942, SCP-3060. Action Reports. Zoopania. Black Lotus. Oneracritic. Onerachemy. Oneraphrenia. A breath of relief no different from drowning. Lessons for old dogs. MTF Pi-1 City Slickers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Pi-1 specializes in the investigation, containment, and subsequent cleanup of anomalies in densely populated urban environments, particularly in the New York metropolitan area. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-274, SCP-602, SCP-1155, SCP-1219, SCP-1388, SCP-2162, SCP-2409, SCP-2890, SCP-2990, SCP-3335, SCP-3360, SCP-3597, SCP-4051, SCP-5151, SCP-5841. Action Reports. Incident 668-A. Dear Cavalier. Job Opportunities. The Consequences of a Deep, Dark Disassociation. A Symphony of Iron and Steel. MTF Rho-1. The Professors. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Rho-1 specializes in the acquisition, containment, and transport of anomalies related to Group of Interest Alpha 388, Alex Silver University. With the reduction of the threat posed by the specific GOI, the MTF has expanded its focus to any and all containment for anomalous academic endeavors. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-877, SCP-1546, SCP-3138, SCP-4028, SCP-4218, SCP-6637. Action Reports. Parable of the Wayward Prince. Commencement. Diantic. Soliloquy. Repel. Negotiation. Denouement and epilogue. Himmeljob. Headache. MTF Rho-9. Technical support. Task Force mission. Mobile Task Force Rho-9 handles computer security for the Foundation. When mimetic kill agents can lurk throughout the data structure, this is no simple task. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1549. SCP-2234. SCP-4550. SCP-5018. SCP-5636. SCP-6715. SCP-7004. Action Reports. Alex Silver University Hub. Red Zone Red DB Archive Asynchronous Copy Vulnerability. Your first support assignment. Warm Milk and Ramen. Himmeljob. Mobile Task Force Basic School. Induction Remarks. MTF Rho-19. Cytherians. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Rho-19 has been sent to Venus, in the hopes to establish a Foundation presence where there may be considerable anomalous activity. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2474. SCP-3999. Action Reports. M13 Personnel Memorabilia Log. Volume 19.113. A01. Of the Instruments, Composers, and the Confissi Nabiscum. Planetfall. Exploration Log 2474.1. Labyrinth's End. MTF Sigma-3. Bibliographers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Sigma-3 is charged with covert infiltration of the anomalous community for the purpose of gathering intel, with a particular focus on the vast otherworldly location of the Wanderer's Library. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-472. SCP-1591. SCP-2975. SCP-3591. SCP-3731. SCP-3875. SCP-4147. SCP-4321. SCP-5917. SCP-6000. SCP-6403. SCP-7288. Action Reports. Lessons Learned. Site 11. Conference Room K. 8:58 a.m. The 12th of July, 1982. Nothing says promotion like a bag over your head. Making a scene. Magic Orientation. The Conspiracy of Sigma-3. Operation Azure Peregrine. Consolidation. A New Age of Magic. The Beast Beneath the Library. Thrive. The Reassembled One. Here Comes the Bogeyman. The Tale with No Name. MTF Sigma-9. Valkyries. Task Force Mission. Small unit providing air support for ground operations or combat against aerial anomalies. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-526. SCP-1262. SCP-2069. SCP-3952. SCP-5395. SCP-7789. MTF Sigma-10. The Sloth's Arm. Task Force Mission. Based at Site 87. Dedicated to the containment of dangerous anomalies within Nexus 18. Better known as Sloth's Pit, Wisconsin. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4040. Action Reports. The Great Site 87 Backsale. Attack of the Ketaskeeters. Happy Holidays. Satyr's Reign. Black Autumn. Series. Black Autumn 2. Rise of the Pit Sloth. Series. Black Autumn 3. Discordant Anthology. Series. Black Autumn IV. Nothing to Fear. Series. From a Burning Screen. If you don't know the words. The Superior Incident. Debriefing. After Action Reports. Incident 4683 Omega The Apple Crisp Crisis. The Meta-Metaphorical Deaths of Agent Carrasco. Part 1. Part 2. MTF Sigma-66. 16 tons. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Sigma-66 is formed of captured members from other GOI. Despite the lack of loyalty the Foundation expects from the assembled team, they find the members' expertise of value. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4600. SCP-5070. Action Reports. MTF Sigma-66 Post-Mission Psychological Evaluation. Stick the landing. 2 transcribed conversations in very different tones. A dysfunctional heist. Headache. This year. MTF Tau-5. Samsara. Task Force Mission. Immortal cyborg clones created from the flesh of a dead god. Tau-5 Samsara utilizes esoteric and experimental Foundation weaponry to investigate and contain thaumaturgic, magical, and psionic threats. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-050-PT. SCP-1730. SCP-2621. SCP-2970. SCP-3780. SCP-3999. SCP-4248. SCP-4290. SCP-4403. SCP-4755. SCP-6004. SCP-6090. SCP-6442. SCP-7780. SCP-7800. Action Reports. Third Law Hub. Avatara. Grant request for investigating the application of certain research assets in overcoming inherent limitations of the human body. Operation Azure Peregrine. The Lord of Endowments. Samsara. Death Perception. The Powers That Bark. After Action Report. Operation Heaving Spirit. The Lord of Endowments. Deus Vulture. SCP-2673 Containment Maintenance Log. A Thin Dangerous Line. Requiem for Ice Spider. Sphere Incursion Log. Numbed Owls Feasting. The Great Omniscient Caper. MTF Tau-9. Bookworms. Task Force Mission. Deals with anomalies related to the library, the Serpent's Hand, and magic. A more traditional counterpart to Sigma-3. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2546. SCP-3743. SCP-5267. SCP-6237. Action Reports. Magic Orientation. Prisoners. Family. Sisters. Looking Forward. EE-8832. MTF Tau-51 Urban Brawl. Task Force Mission. Specializes in the containment and recovery of SCP objects from urban environments, especially the 3 Portland's location of interest. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3460. SCP-3560. SCP-3960. SCP-4160. SCP-4660. SCP-5460. SCP-6560. SCP-6660. SCP-6879. SCP-7016. SCP-7737. Action Reports. Portland Vice. Closed Game. Mid-leg Aim. Breakthrough. Bear King. The Blackbird and the Falcon. The Best Laid Plans. Anderson the Alternative. All Hallows. Assault on Site 64. End of Line. End of an Era. A Pristine. Untouched Wick. Separate Ways. MTF Epsilon-4. Sugar Pill. Task Force Mission. Originally formed in order to contain SCP-2559. Mobile Task Force Epsilon-4 is tasked with epidemiological containment, especially with the containment of mimetic outbreaks. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-947. SCP-2350. SCP-2546. SCP-2559. SCP-3519. SCP-6160. SCP-6364. SCP-7004. MTF Epsilon-11. Avalon's Wake. Task Force Mission. Operating with SCP-4793 in combat against members of the Chaos Insurgency. Specializes in defense against hostiles. Utilizing objects. SCP-4793. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4204. SCP-4423. SCP-4996. SCP-5568. MTF Epsilon-20. Hogtown Garrison. Task Force Mission. Contains anomalies found in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and the surrounding areas. Stationed at Site 201. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2417. SCP-4137. SCP-4581. SCP-4631. Action Reports. Wrong Eve. MTF Epsilon-23 Art Critics. Task Force Mission. Specialize in the containment of anode, mainly originating from GOI 0267. Are we cool yet? Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1018. SCP-1226. SCP-3435. SCP-6589. Action Reports. Stone Cold Crazy. MTF Phi-2. Clever Girls. Task Force Mission. Specializes in the study, tracking, capture, and hunting of prehistoric anomalies, especially dinosaurs. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3057. SCP-3467. SCP-3659. SCP-3934. SCP-4041. SCP-4131. SCP-4445-X. SCP-5533. SCP-5893. SCP-6166. SCP-7587. Action Reports. A Farewell to Arms. Opus Confident Orientation. MTF Chi-7. Plague Tamers. Task Force Mission. Specializes in the containment of microbiological, biochemical, and pathogenic anomalies. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-125. SCP-2381. SCP-2431. SCP-2546. SCP-2870. SCP-6049. MTF Chi-9. Page Turners. Task Force Mission. Specializes in the detection, recovery, and neutralization of anomalous literature. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3317. SCP-3716. SCP-4177. SCP-5359. SCP-5790. SCP-6896. Action Reports. AV Imperator. MTF C7. Home Improvement. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force C7 specializes in the undercover investigation, containment, and/or demolition of anomalous buildings or buildings affected by anomalies, particularly residential homes in populated areas. This includes the acquisition or transfer of affected buildings to Foundation control, as well as initial observation and documentation of such buildings prior to transfer to local containment teams for long-term or ongoing containment. Based out of Site 77. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-574. SCP-744. SCP-941. SCP-1452, SCP-1684, SCP-1967, SCP-2215, SCP-2281, SCP-2311, SCP-2407, SCP-2426, SCP-2490, SCP-2891, SCP-2975, SCP-3050, SCP-3970, SCP-4480, SCP-4572, SCP-5028, SCP-5421, SCP-7991. Action Reports. Overview of MTF C7 Home Improvement. Contingency. The Beast Beneath the Library. MTF C8. The Silencers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force C8 specializes in the investigation, tracking, containment and/or destruction of individuals suspected to be capable of or having been affected by reanimation anomalies, as well as investigating suspected cases of communication with deceased individuals. This includes the severing of devices intended to allow communication with individuals buried alive, such as bells, pipes, and phones, as well as detainment and interrogation of individuals claiming to have had contact with deceased individuals. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-565. SCP-2158, SCP-2922, SCP-3591, SCP-3914, SCP-4175, SCP-6944. Action Reports. SCP-231-J. Log of Anomalous Items. Vol. 1. Intelligence Covenant Dossier. Region -3824 Far 1 Wheelka Altana. Rapid Departure 2. MTF C9. Abyss Gazers. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force C9. Abyss Gazers is a battalion-strength force, consisting of personnel from the Foundation and Global Occult Coalition, trained in unconventional warfare against invading enemies through the use of heavy artillery, DMT-enhanced perception, and counter-occult stratagems, COS. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2264, SCP-2408, SCP-2480, SCP-2815, SCP-3989, SCP-6913. Action Reports. An Anthropological Approach to Sarkicism. Case Study 02. The Devosi of Prague. A Sarkic by any other name. An Assembly of Sarkics. The Undoing. FAM Radio Season 2 Inches Page. MTF Xi-13. Witch Hunters. Task Force Mission. A highly classified joint Foundation-GOC task force designed for the infiltration of Sarkic organizations and the termination of high-threat members. Operatives are trained in counter-occult stratagems, COS, and the use of corrosive incendiary armaments. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2408, SCP-2815. Action Reports. Expedition Log. Greek letter Psi 132815 to 1612-1. First Ivody donation. Sarkic Heat. MTF Omega 0. Aroran. Task Force Mission. The Saints of MTF Omega-0 are informational constructs with the memories of deceased Foundation personnel able to manifest through access of the Foundation's intranet terminals. Using identity warfare training, IWT, they protect their living comrades against informational threats and entities. The existence of MTF Greek letter Omega-0 is unknown to most or all of the living members of the Foundation. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-1463, SCP-2111, SCP-2759, SCP-3664. Action Reports. In the Trenches with the Dead. Materminded. Your Last First Day. Ara Oren. Unthreaded. Personal Log of Richard Lorenz. A Thin Dangerous Line. MTF Omega-1. Law's Left Hand. Task Force Mission. Empowered to remove or execute high-ranking Foundation personnel if they are determined to be acting unethically. Answers only to the Ethics Committee. Counterpart to the O5's Red Right Hand. Known deployments. SCP-001. Dead Men. SCP-4263. SCP-4339, SCP-6229, SCP-7020, SCP-7771. Action Reports. The Man Who Stood Alone Hub. North Star. We Concerned Few. Personnel Expendable. Part 1. MTF Omega-7. Pandora's Box. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Omega-7 has been disbanded and decommissioned. This entry is to be deleted by order of the Records and Information Security Administration. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-175. SCP-354. SCP-732. SCP-4450. Action Reports. Omega-7 Incident Log. Personal Log of Agent A. Beyond the Depths. Asset, not Agent. The Omega-7 and the Bench of Shame. Incident 0. Part 1. Part 2. Part 3. Part 4. Part 5. MTF Omega-12. Achilles Heels. Task Force Mission. A task force composed of reality-bending Foundation personnel from an alternate universe. Omega-12 is tasked with capturing SCP-3480-2 instances, guarding the many entities imprisoned in Area 13, and hunting down powerful uncontained reality benders elsewhere. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3155, SCP-3221, SCP-3480, SCP-3797 ARC, SCP-4455, SCP-4800, SCP-7771. Action Reports. On the Slope of Olympus. MTF Omega-45, Street Samurai. Task Force Mission. An elite fighting force that specialized in the use of anomalous weaponry, armor, and vehicles. Dispatched on missions to retrieve high-risk anomalies and in combat against hostile groups of interest. Based out of Site-78. Utilizing objects. SCP-6952. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-042-INT. SCP-6548. SCP-7114. SCP-7233. SCP-7261. SCP-7774. SCP-7899. Action Reports. The Ninth World Hub. The Site-78 Halloween Special. Lost Souls. Broken Toys Chapter 1. Lost Souls. Broken Toys Chapter 2. MTF Sigma-9. Evolved from naturally occurring gears, levers and pulleys. Task Force Mission. Historically, the Church of the Broken God had always prided itself on its artificiality, that its faith is proven with tangible artifacts and physical devices of miracles. So, When the time came to destabilize the church, the Foundation put forth a team of forgers, and Sigma-9 was it. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2834, SCP-3221, SCP-3341, SCP-5862. Action Reports. Broken Faith. Operation Hippodrome. Recording Hippodrome 045. Additional MTFs. MTF Gamma-4, Meat Lockers. Task Force Mission. Tasked with investigating and dismantling all possible GOI 0432, the Hunter's Black Lodge, cells located within the western United States. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4786, SCP-5206, SCP-5407, SCP-5509, MTF Delta-3, Solomon's Hand. Task Force Mission. Formed in late 1985 as a test case for the Special Asset Task Force Program, an initiative to employ persons with paranormal abilities as field agents. Delta-3 was stationed at Site 246 underneath Lake Superior for the duration of its existence. Dissolved in 1990 after the loss of its primary special asset agent. Action Reports. The Phoenix, the Nightingale, and the Magpies. Much wisdom is much grief. Individual efficacy. Finding a scalpel. The greater good, and other necessary evils. When parallel lines diverge, a thorn is born. MTF Delta-4, Minuteman. Task Force Mission. A rapid response task force that specializes in being the first deployed to a scene. They are tasked with establishing a perimeter and assessing the situation, as well as providing additional manpower to other task forces when they arrive. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-7040. Action Reports. North Star. The Scottish Goliath. Beyond the Depths. Asset, not agent. Beyond the Depths. In a flash. Beyond the Depths. For the present. Brink of hysteria. The Minuteman. We concerned few. Bright Sunny South. Part 1. 7 levels of Site 17. MTF Delta-14. Winter Wonderland. Task Force Mission. Task Force specializing in handling and containing anomalies in sub-zero or cold environments, or anomalies related to snow. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4230. SCP-5140. SCP-5392. Action Reports. Cold Post. MTF Delta-45. Rolling Thunder. Task Force Mission. An aerial task force, deployed as air support during Foundation operations. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3897. SCP-5929. SCP-6000. SCP-6776. MTF Eta-10. Gulliver's Tourists. Task Force Mission. Created to journey into a massive series of tunnels extending through extra-dimensional space, colloquially known as the Gate. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2344. SCP-3560. Action Reports. Wayfarer's Hub. The Homecoming of Eta-10. Wayfarers. We boldly went. Razumite Games. What happened beneath Kronos? MTF Kappa-14. Sideshow Bob. Task Force Mission. Investigation of GOI 233. Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3077. SCP-3717. SCP-3718. SCP-4114. SCP-4743. MTF Mu-3. Limnophobia. Task Force Mission. Contains anomalies within Lake Ontario. Stationed at Site 201. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2742, SCP-4131, SCP-4631. Action Reports. Unclogging the Multiverse's Trash. MTF 11-5, Newton's Bullies. Task Force Mission. Specially trained and equipped for anomalous zones and alt-dimensional spaces deviating from baseline scientific principles. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-4382, SCP-5858, SCP-6218. Action Reports. Bullying Gravity. MTF Omicron-67, Zeroth Responders. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Omicron-67 specializes in arriving at anomalous emergencies before non-anomalous first responders do. Their job often entails keeping regular emergency services from interfering with anomalous entities, locations, and events until Foundation agents, containment specialists, rapid response teams, and/or other mobile task forces can arrive. Based out of Site-14. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5783. Action Reports. The Great Bricking of Site-14. Rapture. Winter. MTF Pi-43. Garbage in, garbage out. Task Force Mission. Transfer of prisoners and anomalies to and from Site-43. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-6073. SCP-7000. Action Reports. The Significant Others. Part B. The B&B Decommission. Many Last Words. Over. MTF Rho-43. Home Invaders. Task Force Mission. Rho-43 is dispatched to interior locations to investigate and/or manage events relating to Site-43 and its personnel. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5729. SCP-6041. Action Reports. Pass it on. Halls of the Dead. Transition. MTF Sigma-5. Drop Table Task Forces. Task Force Mission. Responsible for establishing and maintaining covert access to various social media and file sharing sites for the purposes of disinformation and controlling the spread of computer-based anomalies. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-2801. SCP-4943. SCP-4973. SCP-7109. MTF File. Provident Trawlers. Task Force Mission. Specially trained agents armed with amnestics, tasked with covertly retrieving civilians with anomalous connections from the general populace. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3617. SCP-3716. SCP-3723. SCP-4668. MTF Omega-9. The Scrubs. Task Force Mission. Mobile Task Force Omega-9 consists of 3 anomalous entities available for near-instantaneous deployment into extreme circumstances requiring the delivery of overwhelming force. Its primary purpose is as a rapid response team for containment breaches involving violent, hostile anomalies. As part of the agreement reached with these 3 entities, MTF Omega-9 is only to be used to eliminate hostile non-human targets. Utilizing objects. SCP-2639. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-3797 ARC. SCP-5000. SCP-6776. MTF Omega-20. Thought Police. Task Force Mission. Consists of 2 groups of operatives, the Wolves, Psychics, and the Lancers, non-psychics. Specialized in detainment of persons of interest. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5626. SCP-5923. Action Reports. EE-8832. The Cat and the Mouse. Fox Hunt. Looking Forward. MTF Titan-1. Off the books. Task Force Mission. MTF Titan-1 specializes in spatial, dimensional, and temporal anomalies. Titan-1 are also deployed to deal with non-anomalous threats, such as eliminating hostile persons of interest and certain groups of interest that pose an immediate threat towards the Foundation. Action reports. The Man Who Stood Alone Hub. Operation Galvanic Ukulele. The Area 10 Massacre. Hardboiled. Fresh Fish. Personnel Expendable. Part 1. Personnel Expendable. Part 2. Distributed Task Forces. Task forces consisting of multiple divisions grouped under a single banner. DTF Sigma-6. Puddle Jumpers. Task Force Mission. Protects and maintains SCP-120's facility and location outposts. Composed of multiple units. Division 9 is stationed at Lunar Area 32. Assisting in containment of objects. SCP-120. EE-3570. Umbral Ultimatum. SCP-3609. SCP-4379. Special Task Forces. A designation used for an unusual type of mobile task force. STF Rho-7. Greeting Party. Task Force Mission. Rho-7 is an STF tasked with the preliminary evaluation of an anomaly, allowing for quick, partial containment, and the informed delegation of an appropriate MTF unit, assisting in containment of objects. SCP-5332, SCP-5532, SCP-6125, SCP-6623, SCP-6748,